Today's show is a very hotly debated subject in parenting, and that is because of the potential harm that can come from the use of social media on young people. But it's still, at the same time, it's hard to deny the usefulness of a phone for a teen that would be pertaining to safety or even the just ability to communicate with parents and friends. So I thought I'd bring on an expert to talk about the timing for when to give a teen a phone. Stay tuned. I'm very excited today to have with me as my guest today my granddaughter Charlotte, and she and I are going to talk about a subject that are very near and dear to teens' hearts, and of course to Charlotte, to your heart also. So it has to do with a teen having a phone. So Charlotte, I know you and your mom and dad have a contract. Can you just talk a little about that contract and just tell our audience a little about what you've arranged with your parents?
Yeah, sure. So our contract, I got it when I first got my phone last summer, and it has it's just like a whole paper of all the rules and regulations that have to do with me having a phone. So it says things like no YouTube access, and your phone turns off at a certain time, and you're not allowed to be texting people we don't know and stuff like that. And it has like a bunch of different sections that kind of lay out different areas of what I would be using my phone for.
That is really ingenious, and it's exciting that you and your parents have been able to come to that agreement. I think that's really respectable, and I think a lot of the parents who might be watching this or listening to it might find that to be very insightful.
Yeah, and it was helpful to just see all the things laid out, because otherwise I would have a lot of questions and maybe like accidentally do something my parents weren't good with because I didn't know that they weren't okay with it.
Okay, so that is a good question to lead into. What do you do with the phone? It sounds like the contract has a lot of things you can't do, but what are you using it for?
So I mainly use it to text my family and friends, because that's the main reason I even wanted one. I like to keep in touch with my friends for social stuff and making plans and just talking before school and stuff. It's just nice to be able to talk to them without having to call them. And I also talk to my parents whenever I'm out of the house.
Okay, good. So if these are the main things that you actually do with the phone, and you probably see your friends doing different things, like what do they use it for, and how do you feel about that?
Well, I did forget to mention I also use like the weather app and stuff. And I like to do games, like rarely, but sometimes I use a calendar. I just mentioned texting, but there's a lot more. And
Okay.
Duolingo, the
So
language
quite a
learning
bit.
app.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not like I'm not allowed to be on social media. But that leads into my friends are often, maybe not my closest friends, but a lot of the people I've seen at school are almost always talking about what they've seen on TikTok or how they like to use Snapchat all the time. And I'm not allowed to, so I wouldn't know. But also, I'm kind of glad that I'm not allowed to, because like at the most recent place I went to where we were talking about it, a lot of girls were complaining that they were having trouble like stopping their excessive use of social media. And I was like, wow, I'm really glad that I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, there is so much on in the news and in media about how the harmful effects of phones, especially on young people, and so it's interesting to hear. How do you feel about the current arrangement that they have and how you have? What do you think about it all?
I mean, I'm definitely not upset with it. There are a few things I disagree with, but mostly I like most of it because it keeps me safe and it helps me ease into a phone. Even though I've had it for a year, it doesn't limit me so much that I'm like having issues talking to people. And since talking with people is my main interest in a phone, then I mean I'm fine.
So you mentioned there's a couple things you might not like about it. So what are those things? Like, what is it that you wish you had that you don't have, or the
Well,
other way around?
I originally wasn't allowed to have Pinterest, and then I I had been asking for it for a while, and my parents decided to give it a try. So that's been going well, and nothing has really like happened bad with that. So I would say that I don't like the rule against Pinterest, but I do have it now, so it's not really an issue.
Ah,
I do wish I had a little bit more access to YouTube because sometimes I like looking up like how to make a certain friendship bracelet or
mm,
how to do a recipe or something, and it's annoying when I just immediately get blocked even when I'm not trying to do anything bad. And then also I have a rule against group chats, and that's kind of annoying because I do a lot of theater and it has a lot to do with group chats. Like for each
okay.
show, you'll get a group chat, and then all the people will be like arranging to meet outside of rehearsals, and then we can do something fun to build um, friendships and stuff. And so it's kind of hard to miss out on all that. But
Mm. Mm.
I do understand how group chats can definitely be a bad thing for young teens.
Yeah,
And
because when you probably need to explain for the audience, in some cases, like what a group chat is, as I understand it, is many people are connected, just like a texting group, but then maybe
yeah,
some of the people that you don't know get added to the group, and then those people could end up bringing some bad stuff
yeah.
into the group. So that,
So that is stressful with things like shows I'm in because there could be up to 50 people in the group chat, and that is kind of crazy. But sometimes I can get group chats approved that have like me and three other friends, and then we can make plans to go do something together. And that's
ah,
more of a group chat, so we can talk instead of like me talking to one friend and then making a plan, and then like, hey, to the other friends, does this work for you? And then bringing
mhm.
it to the next. So they are necessary when it comes to smaller groups, and I just have to ask my parents about it.
Okay. Okay. So here's one thing I'm picking up in this discussion is that, and this is a good note to parents, is hey, make your contracts evolving as your
Yeah.
teen gets a little bit older and they want to do things that you hadn't considered as part of the original contract, and now you think they're ready. You can add those things and layer those things in.
Yeah, like for example, I when I first started, I didn't have any way to pay with my phone or to like
Mm.
have any sort of um, payment methods on my phone, like a wallet. I used the app Greenlight, and that's I now got it in the winter as a way for me to use money without having to bring around cash. So
Mm.
that got added, and it was always a thing I was allowed to do. But my dad wanted to help me with it later on, so I could first get used to the phone, then add in more.
Ah, and I think we could do a whole show just on Greenlight
Oh
because
yes,
what I've heard about it, it's just a great little app to help people, parents, and young people to learn the aspects of money. So I'm anxious to talk about that. I'll put a note in the show notes about Greenlight since we've mentioned it. Maybe we'll come back and do another episode sometime. Okay, so my last big question for you is when you're a parent, or if you were a parent today, what would you do different, if anything, about what the arrangement are that you have with your kids? Would you do it something different than what you're doing? Would you kind of keep it the same? What are your thoughts?
I the main difference. Well, so the way my phone is set up is it unlocks at 7 a.m. and it locks down at 10 p.m. And we've had to change that for certain activities I do early in the morning that I
Hmm.
might need my phone for, or like a sleepover, I can ask for a little bit more time. And most of my friends have screen time limits instead of a certain downtime where it goes off. And so theirs will be like, okay, after 2 hours on messages, you can't access it anymore. And maybe not for messages, but things like Pinterest, I would put a 1 hour time limit. And
Hmm.
I actually, like, I wouldn't mind if I had a time limit because it would help me not have excessive amounts of, like, unuseful things.
Right, right, okay.
Like texting, that's not good to put a limit on because what if I'm out and it goes off, but then I need to talk to my parents?
Yeah.
That would just be like really, it could get in a really bad situation. But I think overall, time limits would be good and maybe better than downtime.
Okay.
And then another thing, I have it where my apps, I have to, before I download it, I have to send it to my dad, and then he will accept or decline it. And he almost always accepts it because it'll be like actual things that make sense that I might need for my phone. And I think I like the idea of that, but I would make sure that, I don't know, I think I just have to research apps because you never know what an app might actually have if it has like some secret identity.
Well, so you're one of those good kids that are not going to get themselves into trouble, but I could see a kid having full access to App Store and
Yeah.
downloading stuff which, could be very harmful, or something that their friends say, oh, you got to get this, and not having anybody check it out, I think would be tough. So you're thinking about that one as whether you would change that one if you were a parent or not.
Yeah, I honestly, I was going to say I would change it because it can be like annoying if I'm trying to get something on the spot and then I have to wait. But I do realize as I'm talking about it that it's purely for safety, and it's probably a really good thing.
Okay. Yeah, you happen to have a dad who's very knowledgeable in IT and knows all about technology, so it's helpful to have him check it out, somebody knowledgeable in it.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else I didn't ask you that you feel like you would want to tell our viewers, listeners, about this whole topic that you think maybe should have been asked?
I did want to just touch on the thing about like my age when I got my phone.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, if that's okay. Because, so I got mine the month before 8th grade started. So it was around early August, and I personally don't think it was too late. Like, most of my friends had them in late 6th grade, maybe early 7th grade. And that did make me feel a little left out, but it wasn't that bad. And since I wasn't really doing a lot of independent things at that age, it wasn't too bad. So I think that rising 8th grade is a really good rule. Or maybe, depending on your kid, rising high school, or if you have like certain needs that need to be dealt with a phone or some sort of personal device, then maybe a little earlier. It just depends. Like, yeah, I think that age is really good, and I'm glad I got mine now instead of later because it's come in handy so much over this past year whenever that I can be like, hey, can I do this with my friends? We already have a date planned and stuff, and I share a calendar with my family so I can see like what days I'm not doing anything, and that way I can make plans without my mom having to be super stressed about like arranging it with the moms. And then it's just easier on them sometimes. Or when I'm watching my sister, when they're at work and stuff, I need to be able to talk to them. And so I think rising 8th grade is a really good option for when to get your child a phone.
All right. And that's, I just want to put a clarification in there. When she was talking about dates, she was talking about dates with her girlfriends and not her boyfriends, because she's not at that age.
I said, never mind.
Anyway, well, this has been really, I think, helpful, insightful, and I just so appreciate you being on here and being able to talk to me. I would throw in one comment for you, this audience to hear, is that I noticed when we were hanging out together, Charlotte and I and her grandma and others, she didn't have her phone with her all the time. Like, we made a conversation about the fact that she didn't even need to have that. And sometimes we think of our phones as like our extension of our human bodies. And it was just refreshing to see you kind of having it off to the side, weren't even worried about it, weren't even thinking about it. And that's another admirable thing I see about you, Charlotte. So keep up the good work, and I know you're going to raise marvelous kids someday in the future yourself, but wish you well in your schools and all that too.
Well, my parents have been a big part in why I try to be responsible with my phone, so
now
it's
you're
not
just
all my
making
credit.
them feel good. So. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Charlotte,
Thank you
for
so
coming
much.
on. Well, thanks for joining me for Tech Tips for Seniors. If you found this episode helpful, please be sure to share it with a friend and leave me a review online. If you've done that already, thank you so much. And be sure to stay tuned for our next episode of Tech Tips for Seniors, or anyone really. Take care.